4, 3, 2, 1. All right, we are live. We should be live. We are up, and here we are in Discord.
I hear music in the background.
Good, good. You see, we're getting more professional here. It's becoming a real monster cast. Welcome everybody out there to the Monster Cast, or the Monster Podcast, Voices of the Monsterhood Monster Cast number 3. Today the topic is silly monsters, and that's it. So I want to say this is the greatest monster cast on the internet, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Are we the only monster kind of podcast out there? Is there a bigger one that you're aware of? Is anybody else doing this kind of stuff?
Any others besides us?
All right.
Same here.
Cool. I know Monster Men. I've been paying attention to them for a while over on YouTube. So shout out to Monster Men. They do a little kind of podcast. They sit together in the room and chat over movie monsters mainly. But over here we cover all monsters. The topic, quick before we jump into the topic, I wanted to mention our last Monster Cast, which was the official number 2, was covering the monsters that transform, and we had an awesome one talking about werewolves, talking about all sorts of monsters with the ability to transform, and it was an awesome Monster Cast, but it got messed up due to lag, I think, pertaining to me recording it and streaming it at the same time. Something got messed up. It's really laggy, but the audio was just fine. So I'm not going to upload that one to YouTube. It will forever be on Twitch. So it will be on there permanently. I already re-uploaded that yesterday. So
doesn't Twitch have a thing where they delete streams after a while?
They do if you streamed, but if you streamed on there and you left it. If you upload a video to Twitch, then it stays permanently, I believe. So far, that's been my experience.
Twitch.
Sorry?
Oh. You can upload videos to Twitch.
That's
right. That's news to me.
Yep. So a little tidbit on there for new Twitch people. I'm still pretty new there. So yeah, so it was a shame that we that one got messed up, but it was an awesome one, and I think anybody should listen to that one. It's still an official one. Yeah, it was awesome. I thank you guys for taking part there again.
Post a short YouTube video with a linking to it, in case someone who just happens across your channel after we get this one uploaded wonders where's part 2?
Sure. Yeah, I'll consider that. I will, if I do a sketch thing where I do updates, I'll mention that there and here, obviously, and in the community section, so I'll see if I'll do that as well. But yeah, thanks for that idea.
One of the good things about you being in the US, you have the luxury of not having Article 13 on top of you, so that's something you can plug in quite shamelessly.
What exactly is Article 13, just out of curiosity?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a thing on copyright where anyone, say you go to a vacation somewhere and in a big open square, you take a picture of the place and you accidentally catch a Starbucks logo in there. If you do not blur out that logo, Starbucks, you do not own that picture. Starbucks owns that picture and can sue you for copyright. And essentially a war on memes, you can say. If you have not directly made something or purchased a license to use it, you can be legal action will be taken against you for copyright defamation.
So it's really sensitive copyright crap again.
Yeah. And whilst that information about uploading stuff to Twitch is nice, my channel is going to be taking down a very big pause right now because of that, at least until this whole thing blows over.
Wow, well, good luck with that. What is your channel? Go ahead and shout it out.
Chris Choose Shed, but presently it's to everyone who's listening and is interested, I do gameplay stuff, but that is going to be taking a very hard pause right now because university and stuff is currently happening, and also this nonsense. I'll look towards resuming it after this whole thing blows over, if and when it blows over.
Damn. So you got article, I think you said 12 or 13, on top of YouTube copyright issues, both on top of you. So I feel for you, man.
I'm not really big, I know we don't want to talk about politics here too much, but I have a feeling it's going to really tempt a lot of people in the European Union nations now to pull a Brexit, because a lot of them, I have a feeling, don't like this. So sure. I wouldn't.
No, nobody liked this. The way this thing works is that people campaigned about this. I have personally wrote and called to my MEPs, but the majority of MEPs in the European Parliament are essentially paid personnel, paid votes. They just have assistants who give them a briefs on what they're voting for. They don't really read that stuff, and in the end they just vote yes or no depending on what the assistant tells them. And usually the system tells them that, which is going to continue their salary from the high-ups. And no one in Europe can vote for or against such laws. It's funny how they blame Ukraine for not being democratic, where the entire nation, like over 98%, voted to do what they currently do.
Right.
But the European Commission, they just do whatever they want, and they are not accountable to anyone. So a bit of irony there. But I'm not going to talk about that stuff anymore. Let us get on to topic.
That's a monster for another day.
There's nothing we can do about it right here, right now.
Yeah.
Yes, if we ever do an episode of real life monsters, the European Commission.
Agreed. Keep it in mind. So anyway, shout out to Chris Chu Shed, his channel over on YouTube. Let's wish him the best luck out there. Hope that works out. For sure. Okay, introducing the people you've probably already heard. We've got me, myself. We've got Dande in the text. We got Gargamel. Go ahead and say hi.
Hello.
Gargamel Gold.
I said hello, but hello again.
Chris Chu. Go ahead and say hi.
Hello.
And Rain Crawler, if you can, go ahead and say hi. Okay. All right, so
Rain Crawler will also be joining the chat.
Let's jump in here. I made a community post about this yesterday, and here it is, saying that it's going to be up. And somebody mentioned the top liked comment, said one-eyed, one-horned flying purple eater. There's a song about it, and he even said he's got complete with D20, which is a reference to tabletop gaming or D&D gaming, which we don't talk.
Why didn't I see that post of yours, Arthur? I didn't see it.
Usually I just see these posts on my phone. I don't know if there's even a way to see them on your computer. So maybe
they do
that's
appear in your YouTube notifications, at least for me.
Okay.
Not for me. Not for me. For some reason, it didn't appear.
I don't know.
Arthur, I think YouTube might be messing with you.
As usual.
Anything scandalous recently?
The other monster out there. Make sure you hit that notification bell, if anything. Who knows? Anyway, So anyway, I was just saying that we always mention Warhammer, but we don't mention D&D enough. So just a note on that. But anyway, that's something to get us started. I think a good way to start this is this topic off of silly monsters is what makes a monster silly. So what do you guys think?
Well, it depends on I would say it's a mixture of its lethality and its appearance displaying said lethality. Prime example.
It's not lethal. It's not lethal because
Right.
you know if you look at say Cookie Monster, that's a silly monster, but that's the definition of a silly monster, and he's anything but lethal. Anyone could easily beat up Cookie Monster pretty much.
I was thinking more along the lines of the Leprechaun, because that does not look lethal at all. Yet, movies, I guess. Then again, watching those movies has a pretty high lethality chance.
Right. I was thinking of the Leprechaun, although he might be a bit silly, but yeah, due to the level of his lethality, or how dangerous he is, and serious and horrific those movies are, yeah. I was thinking a little bit more maybe on the lines of really silly, like Goofy. I guess we can make the connection with, first of all, the appearance, how funny it looks, how unproportionate it looks, and then as you guys talked, how dangerous or lack of being lethal it is. I guess it's general behavior. So yeah, since Gargamel brought up the Cookie Monster, I've done so far, I've got a little series called Silliest Monsters. That was something the people voted on. The first one I did, I believe, was Picasso, which is a little monster from The Fifth Element that's on his table. And doing more research on it, it's kind of a sex toy in a way. So it looks funny, and then with all that, obviously, yeah, it's kind of different per se, and silly. Then I did Cookie Monster and The Grinch. Do you have anything on your minds, like, for the silliest thing you can think out there? Or silly is it's a silly word, because maybe funny, but it doesn't necessarily have to be funny, like the Leprechaun.
Count Duckula, a vegetarian vampire duck.
Oh, I love that cartoon.
Nice.
You're just going right into my childhood, mate. High five.
And that's a good one, just because of that description too. Oh, Raincrawler just leveled up. Congratulations there, Raincrawler, in the text. We'll have to reward him for that.
Yeah. This is what he looked when he was a bit angry, the good old Count. But normally he was just, you could mistake him with Warner Brothers Duck, or actually he looks more resembling Daffy Duck, and he was very chill dude, very rich, he owned a castle and all that, but he was just, he was a vampire, but he didn't like drinking blood, he preferred fruit, I believe, if I recall correctly.
It vaguely reminds me of Interview with a Vampire, which is one of my favorite vampire movies, but I like it because it shows the life of a vampire, and the Brad Pitt character doesn't want to drink blood from humans, so he tries rats, but it's really repulsive. Anyway, that's not really, it doesn't correlate with this, but just that little tidbit. So, looking at what Denton here, shout out to Denton, he was here chatting with me yesterday about this stuff, and he's on a different time zone, so he won't be joining us, but he left us with this link here, so we can go ahead and get started with that. I'll open that page up over here. Maybe.
That is indeed a silly looking thing.
Yeah, so now we're going into outside of the spectrum of films, but into mythology and cryptids, cryptozoology. And the first one we got on the list is skunk ape, which really is another name for Bigfoot. So, other than the name.
Yeah, I think wasn't that what the people from the Washington state or Alaska, I think that's what they called the Bigfoot. Right.
Let's see. Yeah, like I was thinking, it's actually the other side of the country. It's around Florida. Yeah, from the swampy region of Florida. They have their own version kind of Bigfoot. Then we got the jackalope, which is a pretty funny little thing in the U.S. It's kind of a joke cryptid because it got started as this fake taxidermy.
I also don't think too many people actually believe that the jackalope is real. I think like 99% of the people who've heard of it see it as no more than a joke and realize it is a joke. So
exactly,
it's almost not even a cryptid because it's just like I don't know if there's anyone out there who claims to have actually seen one.
Yep, it's sort of a parody on cryptozoology. So definitely goes in with the whole silliness thing. It's just a rabbit with horns called the jackalope. Wolpertinger, an amalgamation of creatures, another hybrid out there.
We do encounter them in Redneck Rampage Rides Again, though.
The Wolpertinger or the jackalope? Jackalope, right?
The jackalope we encountered in the second Redneck Rampage game,
Right.
on at least a few occasions, and multiple occasions, and you shoot at them, and where they try to kill you. I don't remember exactly how they attack though, but it's pretty funny.
That is funny, and it makes sense. It appeared there. Let's see, Flatwoods Monster. That's got an odd appearance to it. I wouldn't say it's too silly, because that'd be creepy if it's real. We got Sea Monk. That looks kind of funny here. Melon Heads. Let's see what it says about Melon Heads. Really cool and sad urban legend. Let's see, in Kirtland, Ohio. Okay, so it's a U.S.-based one. Twisted experimentations. Okay, so that's a weird one. I'm going to have to look into that one. It seems a little bit more creepy and twisted than silly, because it's not... It's like human mutations or something. So, Anyway, first time I've heard of that one. Bunny Man, that just sounds funny. Globsters. You guys probably know what globsters are in cryptozoology.
Actually, I do not. Would anyone mind enlightening me?
They're basically I wouldn't consider them silly. They're basically corpses that have, like, washed ashore, and people think they might be some unknown animal. Trey the Explainer did several videos on them.
He did recently.
I could maybe link to a couple of them if I...
Sure. Yeah, so they're basically, like Gargamel said, corpses. Corpses of unknown creatures, and they're just, the general term is globsters. So yeah, that wouldn't really apply here. I agree. So that's that. That's a start there. First one, let's see. Yeah, and the other kind of thought I had is their silly monsters are impractical. That would kind of be another maybe description, not definition. So,
monster that I'm recalling, from which I apologize to people from Wales in advance. I personally find it a bit silly. Well, a mixture of silly and terrifying. It's called the Marilude. I believe that's how it's pronounced. It is spelled M-A-R-I. Second word is L-W-Y-D. So you can find it, Arthur. And it's this supposedly a horse's skull with a white sheet for its body. Sometimes it does have horns or antlers and a full skeleton under the sheet, but the most common depiction I've seen about it is just a horse's skull with a sheet. And what it does, the monster itself, it would go around people's houses, start singing, so the people inside the house would also have to start singing. And if the Marilude stopped singing before the people in the house, it would go away. If the people in the house stopped singing before it would come in and do nasty, nasty things to them. What I find most hilarious about it is that it has become a very popular thing to present in Wales around Christmas for some reason, and I just find that adorable.
Yeah, right. Actually, in my last Christmas video, I did top three Christmas monsters, or from around that time, and that was one of them. I'm having an issue getting the spelling right here, but yeah, and then another description I had, that it comes to your door, it sings, and you have to sing in a rhetorical way or in a replying way to make it go away. If you don't, it'll come in. And in that version that I read, it just kind of joins you for your Christmas dinner. It wasn't like too creepy. So I don't know the twists of that, but I like the idea and like the whole cultural thing surrounding it.
Well, if it were a real monster in modern day, I'm not sure how effective it would be. You just put on your Spotify playlist on max volume and continuous repeat. And just enjoy yourself.
Drive it nuts. Maybe then it'll do something crazy for sure. Now, in the spirit of the new Predator movie that came out yesterday, and we have a lot of Predator fans here, or Yautja, or however you want to pronounce that. I want to show this over here, if anybody's watching this, I'm playing the original Predator design of the Predator movies, as it wasn't what we know today. And I'm playing the video without sound, so you can see the design here. And it's lagging. Okay.
Wasn't the original design some kind of lobster monster?
It, all in all, it looked okay. It's more insectoid, but it had this elongated neck, and that's what made it look funny. But the funniest part of it, and I'll play that now as I connect to it, was played by Van Damme. So we know the action star Van Damme, the French action star. He came down to act that one. So he acted in a suit. The suit was red. It was supposed to be green screened, or in this case, red screened out, so they can put in the other the actual costume to figure in. But it looked really, really goofy, and I would have to say very silly. And in this clip here at the end of the video where he talks about Van Damme and the issues they had with that Predator, he just hits his head there, and it's kind of hilarious, and especially considering to what Predator looks like today.
And that was definitely something. It would have been beautiful, but I'm personally very happy that they went with what we now know today as the Predator.
Exactly. Definitely some knowledge for any Predator fans out there. Some must-to-know knowledge. So
You could have Jean-Claude Van Damme's Predator versus today's Predator. I don't know which one would win, but it would be an interesting fight.
well,
I think the new Predator would just kill himself with a mighty. He would prepare his blades, ready to fight, sees what's before him, and just face palms and accidentally stabs himself in the face.
Right. Or uses his self-destruct device.
But may I provide a brief message to any filmmakers out there who might be listening to this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Please provide practical effects. Practical effects are better than CGI. Thank you.
And the new Predator, the Ultimate Predator, is fully CGI, unfortunately. The classic one,
Sadly.
yeah. But whatever. All in all, these two would have the same abilities. But what the cool thing they did, because with this one, with the old one, with Van Damme, the costume just had that elongated neck, and that's what made it a little taller than a regular human. But when they redesigned the Predator costume, they used the taller actor, I forgot his name, who was about 7 feet, around 7 feet tall. So it actually made the whole design bigger and taller, more massive. So yeah, definitely a better turn there.
Great, man. Thank you very much for bringing us that amazing monster. Also, I do believe that the actor who played the alien in the original was also a pretty tall gentleman. Hats off to you, sir. You did an amazing job.
Right. Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time Googling that, but you're correct. And yeah, the original drone xenomorph, I believe, is 7 feet tall. I actually met a guy that owns one of them, one of the original ones from the movie. It's in his house. But yeah. All right, getting back to silly, more silly. How about Little Shop of Horrors?
That movie,
Definitely heard of it, but I've never seen it.
I've seen it, but I'm personally not a very big fan of that monster. I found it to be a rather distasteful. Not that the design was bad, just the character of the monster. Why do you allow that thing to live? It has that why do you let this thing exist vibe about it, and not in the terrifying one of holy shit, this is going to wipe out the human race, we better stop it. It's just the why is this a thing? At least that's me. Don't know about the rest of you guys.
Right. Well, I'd like it in my little monster zoo personally. You could feed it, people you don't like. Different. You can feed it corpses. You can find roadkill and feed it. I don't know how huge it gets. It gets the size of the whole room in the movie, and it's a sing-along movie, which makes it can make it a little hard to watch too. But yeah, the plant does sing too.
When it comes to very silly monsters, there is one place which has a mighty fine abundance of them. It is the world of Realms Live, which is uh, basically simplified version of D&D, oriented towards roleplay and comedy.
Hmm.
And it presently has they do campaigns, the creators, and you can find them on the channel Bruce Wilkers. It's a delight to watch. And two that I find particularly hilarious are the Clockadile. Just let me pop in this picture.
Did you say
Okay,
crocodile?
basically, it's a crocodile that has a clock for a face.
Cool.
Come on, Discord, load. Ah, yes. Basically, this thing, giant reptiles with clocks for faces.
Did you say this is from D&D?
No, this is from Realms Live.
Okay.
It's a original made tabletop game in the spirit of D&D, but much more simplified with a lot less math.
Got
Focused more on roleplay and having fun.
Cool. Okay. So another.
It looks pretty ridiculous.
I like the name
Especially
to it.
since I think the noise of the clock would give it away.
Right.
That is kind of one of the main ways that you can figure out, oh no, there's a crocodile.
Yeah.
Another one I particularly like is the Ramster, which
Cool.
is a
Puns.
huge mix of a ram and a hamster.
Shout out to Pierce Anthony out there, the writer of the Xanth novels. He's got creatures full in his novels that are pun-based. They're really kind of fun and silly.
An apex predator of the plains is the Vark, which is a giant vulture shark that flies about. Is quite the pest in those cases.
That's actually kind of cool.
Something that is not cool, though a lot of Realms fans will debate me on this, is the monkeyfish, which are generally these rather low intelligence, small monkeys that live in rivers, lakes, and whatnot. But they can grow. The more they grow, they become smarter, wiser, and they can become very big.
Nice.
The biggest one, I believe, was about elephant-sized.
Okay. That's interesting too. Actually, these concepts, other than that crocodile at the start, they're not that bad. And they can be worked up pretty nicely.
And in terms of silly, there's just two more that I would like to bring up that play on the person's psyche. First one being a funk, a mixture of a skunks and a fox. And when this thing sprays you, you start seeing hallucinations as if reality itself just becomes a completely different thing.
Nice.
And you have this mental image of a funk that just follows you around. It's not there, it's not real, but you believe it's real, and it communicates with you like it's a separate entity. The animal itself is gone, but you have this vision of a funk just conversing with you and just
Right.
pulling pranks on you just because.
That's a really cool adaptation thought, actually. Since the animal is not that high of an intelligent, but it has this ability in its anatomy. That's...
And my personal favorite would be the ever-beloved hat rat, which are just normal rats that have hats. Please load image.
Is it a cat in a hat?
No, it's a hat rat.
Right.
A rat with a hat. But the best part is that from their hats they can cast random spells, including spells that can possibly destroy the world.
Wow. Congrats to Dande, just leveling up.
Congrats, Dande. Oh, and when you kill a hat rat, it explodes in a massive explosion of confetti, for some reason.
Okay. That added 2 points of silliness to it.
Oh yeah, this sounds like it would make like a great video game monsters. Make great video game monsters. Speaking of which, I'm playing a video game with a lot of silly monsters in it right now. Called Sleep Tight, and it's a game where you're playing as a child, or you get to pick your child, but you have to. There's one that's unlocked, but you have to unlock the other ones, and you set up like fortifications and stuff, and you buy like toy guns and stuff, and you have to see how long you can survive against these like cartoon monsters, and they attack every single night. It's pretty fun,
Nice.
actually, but there's no way to actually beat it because it's just one of those games where you have to see how long you can survive.
Actually, I'd love to see these...
Look that up, guys.
I'd love to see these...
Sleep Tight.
Sleep Tight. I'd love to see these monsters that Chris mentioned in a video game just blowing up rats like that turn into confetti, and you don't know what to expect with these things. It'd be pretty fun, kind of colorful, and get away from the serious games.
Take a look at the, see if you can find Sleep Tight, Arthur. Take a look at those monsters. I have trouble posting links on my phone.
Okay. Yeah, I'll Google it right now. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, regarding seeing those in a video game, technically you do, because Realms Live is made specifically for the game Tabletop Simulator. There is a mod for it. But if Rob, if you're watching, this is the creator of Realms Live. If you're watching, make a video game set in the world of Realms and include hat rats, because hat rats are awesome.
You need a crocodile. I'm still leaning toward crocodile as my number one right now, I think.
Well, yeah, and if you rub yourself with crocodile oil, you can dodge a lot of attacks because it makes you slippery.
Nice.
Cool.
I think what makes it even better for me is if it would be completely blind because of the clock on its head. So it has to rely on feeling.
Not sure about that.
Right.
But it does have a lot of senses that it utilizes. It's just the ticking that kind of gives it away, though it provides a very menacing air. Can you imagine the scene in a horror movie where you're just the characters waddling through
Right.
waist-deep water, and it's dark, scary music is playing, and suddenly you go, tick, tock, tick.
It's creepy, but everybody already knows what's coming. I just feel sort of sad for it, comparing it to actual crocodiles that rely on being stealthy. Crocodiles are rare due to their ticking giving them away.
I would imagine.
They have to resort to eating algae.
I've never actually played this game, but I think I might, research it a bit. I'm not really into tabletop stuff, but I think it might be interesting just to, read up on it.
Yeah.
We're talking about the croc from Peter Pan.
No. Though that one also
Oh.
kind of works.
Welcome, I hope you're doing well. I want to shout out Dande here. Where's that sound coming from?
That's a postcard.
Huh. Okay.
Oh, that thing looks like my mother.
LZ, you're going to
Nice.
have a lot of fun listening to the first half hour of this.
Was that Z? Oh, there he is. Okay.
Oh,
I have
I'm
my
there.
thing. Oh, welcome, Z.
I'm sorry, I was caught in the middle of a late dinner, and it dragged on and
Or you're
continues.
having dinner with the Mega Furby.
Just dragged on and on, just as we do here. So,
Well, no offense to the Mega Furby. What is tonight's topic?
silly monsters.
The monsters. Oh boy.
Yep.
Oh boy.
I want to give
Are we
a...
talking about that one with a cupboard its head? If you bow before it, it will bow and it will die due to the fact that there's no water in the cupboard anymore. What's it called? A cuphead?
Your mic is a little bit off tonight, Z. I couldn't hear that.
Yeah, not too clear. I want to give a shout out here to Dande because he got us on track to Sesame Street, and that means Muppets, and those are pretty funny there that he mentioned the Yip Yip Aliens in Sesame Street. Quick shout out, I want to mention Animal from Sesame Street. Oh, and somebody got the big one. Dande got the big one, Sweetums. Let me Google Sweetums. Because I didn't even know this one's name, but I always like seeing him in the movies or wherever I see Muppets. So Sweetums has to be one of my number one monster Muppets. And then Gonzo. Who doesn't know Gonzo?
Sounds familiar.
I do.
This is Gonzo.
Kind of hard
I
not
have
to know.
never actually explored the very culture and the eccentricities of the Muppets.
I have a theory about what Gonzo is. When I was looking at him yesterday, I am guessing that Gonzo is a type of weevil, which is a kind of beetle that has an elongated mouth.
I always
Gonzo.
thought he was a
Isn't
bird
he
who
supposed
hid
to
a
be in? I
face.
think in one of the Muppet movies, he was revealed that he was an alien.
You're right. You're right. He is an alien. Well, he's a weevil
I
alien
always thought
then.
he was a bird that flew into a wall.
Hmm? That could work.
I had trouble hitting my mic there.
Or a window.
It was funny.
And finally, I want to mention Count Dracula just because it's another great pun idea because he has to count everything. Count Dracula Muppet.
It's just the Count. They don't call him Count Dracula in this.
Right. He's
in
Count.
this Sesame Street.
You're right.
One of the most entertaining. I'm sorry, Arthur, were you talking? The green thing on Discord was lighting up around you, but your mic wasn't making any sound.
You're good. Maybe I bumped it.
Yeah, one of the funniest videos I have ever watched on YouTube, which any of you could type in at your own risk. The Count censored. It's nothing bad happens. It's just a song that he sings how he likes to count things, but there's a bleeping sounds put in convenient places, and it just.
Oh, I see. What's that? I forgot that game.
Makes it obscene through unnecessary censorship.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
Joke that sounded like a joke that Cracked would do a lot of times. If you don't know what Cracked is, because you don't live in the United States, it's a magazine similar to Mad Magazine,
Mm-hmm.
and it has an online version that's much different. And the online version, they had a couple of posts called "Made Obscene Through Unnecessary Censorship."
Right. What is it called? Mad Libs, where you insert the word too? That kind of idea. What is that called again?
Mad Libs.
I mean the one with the count. That song you mentioned, Chris. No reply.
Are you still there?
Yep, I am still here, but everyone suddenly went quiet, including Arthur.
Oh, that's weird. Well, I'm asking you,
Who wants to know
Chris.
what the sound you mentioned was?
Yeah. Did you hear him?
Nope, I'm not hearing any. Hold on, let me try to relog.
Okay.
Right? Can you hear us?
Can you hear us now? You hear us now?
Yeah.
I've started talking now, but yeah.
What's that
Arthur,
song you
try
mentioned,
something.
Chris? What's that song you mentioned with the count?
It's called The Count Censored, and
Okay.
it's just the Count song where he sings they call me the Count because I like to count. I count the books on the shelves all day and stuff like that, but instead
Right.
on certain places there's a censor bleep input, so it makes the
Oh,
song
one of
have a
those.
very different tone. It's hilarious.
Let's see. I'll see if I can bring it up.
I would not recommend you look at it on the stream.
Got it. All right. I won't, and that'll probably. But here it is for people that are curious. Okay. Moving on. Anybody else want to mention a Muppet? There's a lot, or a puppet. Muppets in it as a whole.
We're
Are
going to Oscar the
pretty
Grouch.
weird.
I can't believe we've never brought him up. If you're going to do another Silliest Monsters video on a Sesame Street Muppet, you got to do either the Count or Oscar the Grouch.
Yeah, Oscar's another one. Definitely corresponds with the Cookie Monster. Who said here? Dande mentioned a silly monster, Ginger Dead Man. That's a horror movie, and it's like the gingerbread man. That one's pretty funny from looking at
talking
the
about Shrek, because I
images.
feel like he classifies under silly monster.
Shrek. That's a really good one. I didn't think about that. That's a very good one.
I mean, Shrek is probably the best of silly things. American humor. I never got it. Slapstick.
Well
I never
done.
got it really, but it was entertaining when I was younger.
Yeah, he's got a lot of layers. Yeah, I definitely put Shrek on there.
Not Nick. All stars joke.
You can never go wrong with Shrek.
You can't. They
Well,
had
that's
great
good.
writers for that franchise.
We have
Hey now,
literally
you're a
entire
rock star.
mythology of Shrek. Shrek is
Ice
a
cream
monster
monsters.
world if I had anything. Everything is talking. Even the fucking donkey. Everybody but us.
Yeah. The Michelin Man, or is that right? From Ghostbusters that Dande put up there. I was thinking about that one too.
It's
the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Oh, man.
There you
Michelin
go.
Man is in the commercials. If they put the Michelin Man in
I
that
mean,
thing, I think they have gotten sued.
Right. Well, or they'd have to get sponsored.
Ooh, another funny set of not exactly monsters that I remember. They are from, again, from my childhood. The Barbaroni. They're a bit more famous here in Eastern Europe, though I think they are originally French made. Where it's a family of these blob-esque creatures that can mold their bodies to transform into basically anything. So, fitting with our last topic of transforming monsters. Oh, that big pink one is Papa Barba. The lady besides him is
That
Mama Barba,
strange
and those are
speech
kids.
pattern. I do not remember it, but they had a speech pattern of some kind.
No, they didn't really talk. They just transformed into. They basically Play-Doh people and could turn their bodies into anything.
Oh, I see.
They look really generic too when in their normal form, so that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it reminds me of the various
This is from,
children's
like,
books.
Well, they are from like the 70s and 80s from Eastern Europe, so bound to.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Let me close that. I wanted to mention the trolls from the troll movies. Now, I wouldn't say
yeah.
the trolls are as silly as the movies themselves, as those are regarded as some of the worst movies out there, and there's a whole fan base around them due to that reason.
Well, actually, the Gremlins... Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. This keeps happening.
I'll just keep this quick. There's only a single reason why I know this movie, besides all the fact that that was YouTube channel recommendation for it all the time, but they made a rendition of September by Earth, Wind and Fire, which is, if you don't know, my favorite song.
Right.
But go on. I mean, there must be some ridiculous, silly children's cartoon out there that has spawned a manifold of monsters that just waits to be discovered of us. Yeah.
So, yeah, and again, the trolls, the design's pretty cool. The practical effects ran short, though, because they're not very versatile, the costumes, and just the movie directing and acting. It's all in all just bad, so it formed this whole cult following. Same with the movie The Room, if you guys know that, with Tommy Wiseau.
Sounds scary.
We do.
Oh,
hi, Arthur.
I remember this one. We should have this specifically for... Well, it's not exactly monsters, but it's dragons, and dragons can be considered... Am I stretching it?
Sure. I see Dande mentioned ghoulies. I wanted to mention ghoulies too, because they're kind of like gremlins, but gremlins still have a kind of cool appearance to them, aesthetically
I was
pleasing.
going to bring them up, actually. That was what I was trying to bring up earlier, the Gremlins.
Yeah.
They're
but-
kind of silly, even though they are, kind
Evil.
of creepy at the same time.
Right. They're
Again,
very
silly.
malefic.
I don't think Gollum counts then.
Why is that piece of jelly twerking?
And there's a lot of versatility to the appearance of ghoulies.
What are you
that's
talking about?
why.
The jelly twerking? Is something in the text chat I did not notice? I'll go check out the text chat right now.
Flubber.
Oh, Flabber.
Yeah.
Oh,
Flubber.
Flabber.
It had a consciousness, so I guess we could... Yeah, we could kind of add
That
that
is
here.
the one
It
Robin
was
Williams
an
movie.
anomalous blob, the literal incarnation of an anomalous blob that had no friction in it.
Mm-hmm.
It was
That is
simply
the
a
one
personification of something.
movie I haven't watched, and because there's a jelly twerking, I shall never watch it.
Well, here's the thing. Flubber is an, I think it's early 2000s animation, which is what you see
Yeah.
here. Live action with this kind of animation every now and then. There's a flying robot, super hot thing.
Well,
Sorry,
it involves...
That's just me being robophilic again. No, man.
It involves Robin Williams, so that's one reason to see it.
Well, if we want silly monsters, I haven't seen the last few episodes of the series yet. I intend to, but we gotta mention Adventure Time. I'm surprised no one here at all, mentioned Adventure. At least several of us are from the States, so Adventure Time is definitely one of the last silly monsters in it.
Isn't Adventure Time just one big collection of silly, strange, and
Yes, it is.
Yes
It
and
is.
no. It actually has an overarching
Is it
plot
just-
of. It's actually a pretty deep series, and I have a lot of respect for it.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
though
don't say
there's actually a
bad.
few serious episodes in there too.
What's the other one?
Surprising.
I'm just saying
Gravity.
that
Gravity Hurts or something?
it would be like including every single children's cartoon and consider them monsters because holy fucking shit, the things are in that. Huh?
What's
I
the
can't
other
even stand the main
cartoon?
characters. I mean, it just oh no, it freaks me out, and I don't.
Hmm.
I don't know.
What's the other cartoon that ran the same time? Something Gravity. Gravity Falls? Is that right?
Yes, Gravity Falls. I've never seen it, but I've heard of it.
That had a pretty
I mean,
funny
Gravity
episode
Falls
with.
is one
Highly
of those
recommend.
shows that that entire thing are the unusual and the unnatural in a good sense of way.
It had a pretty
From
funny
the depths
episode
of my
with
heart, I stabbeth thee.
Minotaurs. The manly Minotaurs. The very masculine Minotaurs.
You mean the Manitors?
Yeah.
Oh god, the
Manitors.
Manitors. I don't have to repeat myself when I say that. That's just weird. I mean, it's a logical conclusion of mythological and mixture of a man and a man. It's a man writing. It's a man with a man over. I am not equipped to describe it accurately. I'm sorry.
I think this
Do
one.
you mean the majestic Mantor, Z?
Mantor.
The majestic Mantor for your viewing pleasure.
Oh, that's nice.
I am not.
That's actually pretty cool. I like that.
I mean, is it just
design
not
pretty different.
an app human of some kind?
Kind of funny. One I have to mention that a lot of people won't think right away, but the one that people refer to as the King of Monsters. And of course, I'm talking about Godzilla.
Oh God!
But not all versions,
oh, God,
right?
Yes.
But there are some pretty damn
Godzilla
silly.
Had some,
The
silly
early
moments.
Godzilla was pretty silly. The early Godzilla looked like a cartoon.
The first one was.
Oh yeah, and should we? Oh God.
We could say the first one was silly, but that's because of just the lack of quality effects then, because it was supposed to be scary, and it was when you watched that movie back then, but it started getting sillier later when he started doing the flips and he started flying backwards and all this kind of funny stuff. He'd high-five another kaiju.
Godzilla, like the first one, he looked kind of silly because he looked kind of cartoonish. It probably wasn't that much on purpose, but he looked huggable, the early one, because
Right.
he had like big face and these big eyes.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Godzilla the series? Not the 2000, not the 19, not the early one, the latest one that is actually credibly, let's say that's at least entertaining. The latest one.
Right.
The last one was actually it was a cupcake of all kinds of things sprinkled with weird.
Actually, Gargamel made a good point with it looking sort of huggable, because that's the idea they kind of did actually go with later. I forgot which era of Godzilla that was, as Godzilla is divided into eras. They're not even called eras. But like this picture I have up here where he does the little dance at the end. And he also has Godzilla Jr. that he takes care of. So he kind of shows being a good father. He shows being very playful. He shows being very kind of reachable and comfortable for children, which are, of course, a huge audience for Godzilla. So that's kind of what they were going with at that time.
Well,
Speaking of...
I mean, if we can't say silly, I will say that this qualifies as silly. Some Godzilla fans will agree with me that this one was silly.
A lot of people
the
think
movie
so.
was
But...
not that good, but I liked the animated series. It was nice.
Animated series it had its own charm, I will say. I mean, it had its flaws too, but it was definitely charming in its own monstrous, super alien invasion, controlling all monsters kind of a way.
Right.
Yep. Oh, speaking of silly monsters, Gentlemen, at the beginning of the series, remember when I talked about balancing out of how lethal something is and how lethal it looks?
Right.
I forgot to mention the absolute best monster that exemplifies this.
Ah, yes.
Oh, yes.
And that is a monster.
But that's Monty Python.
Awesome. There you
cannot
go.
Just say, I mean, anything Monty Python can become something different.
Yeah, the killer rabbit in what is it, the Holy Grail movie? What was
Yep.
that Holy Grail movie? The Search for Holy
A
Grail was
must
just the Holy
see.
Grail.
Yep. Everybody
You're
must see
listening
that
to this,
movie if you
you're-
haven't.
Well, missing a key part of humor as we know it, or humor as it should be.
Yeah, right.
Sure, it may not be your taste, but it's definitely better than most of the stuff we have on the internet right now.
Good old
Most
British
of
humor.
If it's
Yeah.
meant by Monty Python, you should see it.
I agree. How about Killer Tomatoes? I never actually watched that movie. I tried, but anybody have any thoughts on that? Attack of the
It's
Killer?
definitely absurd. You know, the idea of tomato
Oh,
killing people
oh.
is definitely absurd.
And it was
There's a
kind of
cartoon show too, if you haven't seen that. That one
Right.
looked that cartoon show I saw a few episodes. That was pretty funny.
and the
I
actual
have-
movie
Yeah,
was
like-
done kind of as a joke, in a way.
One of the elderly, most silly monsters we ever have in the history.
Z-Man.
These cell
I
shakers.
wouldn't call them silly per se.
Mm-hmm.
They do have a bit of a scary twang about them, but I wouldn't call them silly.
Right.
I mean,
It's hard with them.
Yeah, they have this
there is
scariness
a
to them, but they have this
historical
kind of
value in them, but
funny side to them.
a value to them. But
hmm
as a concept, as a general logical concept, they are silly.
What I find silly about them is their kind of behavior, demeanor, because ultimately they're scary because they can destroy you pretty easily, but then they have this kind of weakness in their attitude that they show through their talking and their reactions, and that's what I found kind of funny and humanizing. What are they called again?
Alex.
They're like
No, not Derek, just
I mean,
Daleks.
Daleks are not,
Dalek.
what's it called? They are scary, they can be portrayed well, but they can also fall very short of being portrayed well, which is, in most parody cases, made very obvious.
hmm
I mean, I can find, but you don't have to look far to find a Dalek joke.
Let's see.
No, you
here.
don't.
Here's one that I'm bringing up. Creature from the Haunt. And there's going to be a lot. I don't have a nice list of them or anything, but a lot of the monsters from the old black and white movies. And if you look at this one, the creature from the Haunted Sea, I'll go ahead and...
Yeah. I remember that from the Malcolm intro. I've never seen the original movie.
yeah, it seems fun to watch. Just for the comedy of it. And there's another one. There's a lot from that time frame. Attack of the Killer Condoms. Is that a real thing?
Yeah, it is.
I-
I think he posted that, and I asked him to move that to the not safe for work monsters because it was kind of the trailer. Even the trailer was kind of
Oh, I see.
inappropriate.
Right.
But it is absurd.
Yeah, we can still mention it.
I don't know if I can say this, but anyone seen Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the Vogons? I don't know if it just means I find them silly, but I read the book, and that's a silly book, so that might just be that. But
Right.
Just do not
I mean,
recite their
if you look
poetry.
in the main voice cabin text,
I
they,
think-
they don't look silly. They may even look intimidating to some,
Mm-hmm.
but they are, if anything, they fall short of being truly monstrous.
Right. I think a lot from his universe would count. That writer, similar again to Pierce Anthony that I mentioned before, they created these cool, fantastical universes with these weird, funny creatures sometimes. At times.
I think I might get a tiny bit religious now when I post this, but if it's a silly monster, is it just me?
Right, that's from that universe too. It is a silly concept, but it's so original and silly that it's just... It makes you want to read the books for that, I'd say.
Arthur, that's actually not an original concept. I think it actually is something from a ancient myth that the Earth balanced on a turtle. I'm not sure what mythology it's from, but it is actually from a mythology. I just don't remember
Indian
which
mythology.
one.
Yes,
Indian.
which is why that I might be getting a tiny bit religious when I posted that.
Is it Indian mythology, Chris?
It's from Indian mythology.
It is. Okay.
Thank you. I am uneducated in all these matters, to be honest.
Well, good to know.
I'm just aware it had some origins.
Another one I have to mention is the kaiju, the Claw. The Claw movie that often gets
No, I haven't heard of that one.
mentioned when
it also
people
has
talk
a
about
root in the thing. This
goofy
world, which is a
monsters.
silly universe.
So it's this one. It's like a giant bird, but it just looks hideous and
Oh, this one.
goofy. Yeah, and it's often mentioned.
I mean,
Speaking of which, I mean, we can connect a lot of kaijus, I think, to this silly monster theme.
if we are talking kaijus, can I mention Pacific Uprising too?
Craw wasn't one. Pacific. There's another one. Oh, I forgot. I made my list of kaijus video. There's one that's covered with fur. There's a lot of pretty funny ones. The Kappa kaiju was really, really weird and hilarious. The movie, if you look at the clips, you know what a Kappa is from Japanese mythology.
Aren't kappas these turtle monsters that live in streams and lakes that pull your soul out of your butthole after they drag you underwater?
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure if they do all of that.
Yes, but if you're really polite, they will bow to you and they will the water will fall their head and they will be really easy to defeat. So they're really silly in that regard too.
Mm-hmm. There you go. There's a silly monster picture for you.
There was a monster,
Well, at
very
the time,
silly
really creepy.
monster that. Okay, that I would say that's not a monster. That's just silly. I mean, it's a
Killer donuts.
concept. And I don't know how many fetishes that movie spawned on its own. We're not allowed to talk about that.
If we're gonna talk about, silly Japanese monsters, we should bring up Pokemon. 'Cause Pokemon, almost all the Pokemon are silly in some way or another.
Right. They're kind of pleasant for children. They don't have sharp edges, in other words.
Some of them definitely do have sharp edges, but they look like, cartoons. Some of them do look
Right.
like cartoon predators, though.
I
So.
mean, we have these pictures of realistic Pokemon somewhere.
Exactly. Right. That's what always turned me off with Pokemon and some of those Japanese things. Is that's why I was more into Magic: The Gathering card games, because they depicted monsters as real or in a real fashion, whereas Pokemon was always so cartoonish. It's really cool. They're cool concepts, and you can redo them in a more realistic way. But definitely, they were kept more silly or innocent in appearance to draw a bigger, younger audience.
Maybe you should, Arthur, as a challenge for your next monster sketch, draw a Pokemon, but try to draw it realistically. Like, what
It's a
it
good
would
idea.
look like if it was actually a real creature.
Oh,
Like, make
boy.
the
Right.
proportions all realistic and stuff.
Yeah, I like that challenge. I like
Maybe you
that.
should try doing that, Arthur. Maybe you should try making one of the realistic-looking Pokemon since you're into stuff like that.
Sure. Sounds cool. Sounds fun, actually. Z, you posted a pretty cool one there, actually. I like that one.
I mean,
I like the mouth on it.
Pokemon's with a realistic edge are
Mhm.
cool. They can be cool. They're for crying out loud, they're monsters. They
Sure.
are literally pocket monsters. I'm not saying it too much here.
That is a cool one.
Speaking of funny monsters,
Nice.
it would or silly. It's a bit of a far reach for me, but I just can't help but mention the imps, specifically from Homestuck, specifically the session of the Alpha Kids. Where the shtick with these guys is so there is a game.
Mhm.
And when you first go into the game, you receive this glowing circle thing, which you can modify and turn into an extra dimensional being by putting things into it. But as you do so, the enemies that you encounter from the game take certain aspects from the things you modify them with. In the case of the imps from the session of the kid named John, he put a mannequin of a harlequin into said thing, so they all started looking like jesters, which brings the silly thing, but they're also pretty derpy on their own.
Right. Well, it's got a certain look to it, certain aesthetic.
I mean, that definitely would freak me out if I met those guys on a dark evening in a dark alley.
And of course, they're not the only enemies. You also have the huge things like the whatchamacallit, the ogres, the crude ogres. Hope this loads.
Mm-hmm. Be kind of cool to see them depicted in a realistic kind of way, either CGI or Photoshop. Just the black is always interesting how artists work with that into reality.
Well, mentioning that, I did find something that depicts them supposedly realistically. The realistic depiction of an imp. If there's anything you can find in abundance, it's Homestuck fan art.
I see.
Yeah, I would imagine that, doing it being a Tumblr thing. I mean,
and something that is considered the imps are part of a race called the Dursites, who I'm not going to get into the lore, but another cool piece of art relating to Dursite individuals, the two gentlemen along with this lady called Jane. Oh, wait, that's Jade, my bad.
Let's take a look at that.
So there's an open market, so there's nowhere in the world where silly monsters cannot come from. All right, let's see.
I want to go into mythology a little bit. One of my, I wouldn't say favorite, but I always have these guys on my mind. They're called Blemmies. Here you go. And it's basically humanoids, and it's one of the old tribe kind of ideas in ancient bestiaries. And they're basically just, they're humans without a head, but the face is on their torso. And they're actually called Blemmies. So here's some old art.
I heard of them. They are kind of silly.
They are. I like the idea, though. It's, I don't know. I like simplified monsters sometimes like that. Here's another picture. Actually, not that one. This one.
I would not like to meet those in a dark alley.
I would have to. So here's a picture of some of these tribes. You have the cycloptic one. Then you got the Blemmy version. Then you have one with huge ears. Another one with a huge stretched lip. A goat one. And then this one-legged, huge footed one. And I'd have to give it to that one. I don't know what you guys think, but that would have to be my number one there for the most silly. And just like,
you definitely can say that about those.
Living a life of hell. It's just a cursed life.
It's a hard knock life for us.
Couldn't get down the name of that particular one quickly, but yeah, that's pretty interesting. And along those lines, you have these ancient, not ancient, but old depictions here. And this is something from anatomy book related. I didn't do the research. It was actually tricky to get the info up on this one, but it's related to like human anatomy and just trying to twist as much as possible. And
could you?
Up with this
sorry, Arthur.
Go ahead.
Could you post some of these in the text chat, because
sure,
I really can't see them on my phone.
Sure. Let me see. Let me get the.
Basically, visual proof that humanity has been going towards furryism for a long, long time.
Yeah, it kind of is.
That's a beautiful one. I mean, medieval is definitely a classic, if anything. Write me in the comments if you would like.
Not sure how to open this one.
Also, on the previous topic, I think they discovered a toy from a caveman era, which was a humanoid lion, and in the text of that picture was, man finally is able to create stuff, makes first furry doll.
Nice, so innovative.
Zeno.
I have to ask, is it just me that cannot differentiate between silly and just a silly concept? Because it seems like horror is kind of completely missed subject from my taste. The human centipede is definitely a silly concept.
Yeah, that's silly, but
Just-
nasty and horrific. But then
It's
there's
horrifying.
horrors which are supposed to be horrific but turn silly, kind of like the Evil Dead movies, especially the later ones.
Oh, yeah. What about Sharknado?
It's just dumb.
I don't know if that's a monster movie. I mean,
Right.
a monster movie
Yeah, I
would be
guess
a
it would be.
logical do to make them a monster.
Another one, going with I like those kind of horror movies that do get pretty gruesome, but they're also funny, comedic at the same time. One that I have to mention is Dead Alive, which is really gruesome, but it's really funny too. I mean, there's so much blood that they're slipping on it, and the guts are going crazy and doing things. It's an over the top kind of cult movie almost. I think it is a cult movie, would be considered it.
That kind of reminds me of a game called there aren't really any monsters. There's a game called Guts where the purpose of the game is you have to dismember your opponent, and it's like blood and gore everywhere. But even at the end of the match, when your opponent is nothing but like a torso and a head, they're still alive, and they're complaining about how they could have won if they only did this, or like how you cheered or something. It's hilarious.
Right. Nice. Before we jump into the creations and starting to wrap this up, as far as the animals and real life kind of monsters, let me see if I had anything else here. Nope. I wanted to mention.
To say that, real life monsters. I'm not going back in there.
Oh, does anybody know an old
monkey.
show, The Trapdoor? An old British show, I believe. That's a good one.
It sounds scary.
So here is the.
This is a-
You mentioned Monsters Inc. I feel like we should not avoid that one.
Definitely Monsters Inc. is one that is definitely silly.
Right,
I haven't
right.
really seen either of the two movies in their entirety, though. So I don't really want too much spoiled for me.
Just watch the first one, the Monsters University. Not worth.
No,
I was talking about the first one.
right.
Yes.
I was thinking it is silly, but
I forgot
they're.
that there was a second movie. Damn, I'm getting old.
Right, the whole movie is designed for children, so I was seeing it more as like maybe childish monsters rather than straight up silly, because the concepts are pretty cool and they're not that goofy. They're still kind of practical the way they act and as far as they look. So with real life monsters, or go ahead.
I just realized that we haven't filled out the Warhammer quota, so I found something that Z, I'm sure you will appreciate.
Uh-oh.
Oh, go. Chris?
It's a badass Necron. Looks kind of like Elvis there.
Russian Necrons.
Well, he's got
Robots,
mayo.
but that's just...
That's pretty American.
No offense to any of the Russian listeners out there. Just that.
He's wearing
for beautiful
Adidas.
Necrons.
I just
Yeah.
I don't get the addition of
Yeah.
that mayo there.
Yeah, one of these days we gotta do robotic or mechanical monsters.
That might be yeah. So yeah, the animal I wanted to mention, because there's a lot of animals that seem like, why did evolution create them that way? There's a lot we can talk about. One that I did want to shout out was this one. I just clicked on them breeding too. It's called the giraffe longneck beetle, and it's just one of these creatures that you feel kind of sad, because like at least slugs and snails, you kind of get them. They're more balanced, but you have this beetle. It's got a regular beetle body, and then it has this very mechanical, structured, simple, pivoting neck. It's not even like a... I think it just goes up and down. It doesn't even look like it turns side to side, and it's just like, you know,
It's
why
sad.
did this animal get this kind of treatment by Mother Earth or nature?
Yeah, but just as I went to the stream to see what it was you were on the highlighted picture you mentioned.
Right.
Is this kind of stream?
Let me bring it over to
Duck-billed platypus is also kind of a silly animal that's real.
It is. It's got some cool features, like it's a venomous toe, which is largely unknown.
I mean, look at that disproportional crap. It's so silly.
Spider crabs. Those are pretty cool.
I mean, are we talking? Yeah, crabs are cool.
Alrighty, so before... Go ahead.
Sorry, just go on.
And
I am thinking of shellfish by now, because
Shellfish, sure.
Deep water animals do tend to be silly to us, but they are logical in their own way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got the logics. You got weevils, too. They look kind of silly, but they have a purpose that I mentioned earlier. Weevils are the type of beetle. Okay, I think we should jump into our own creations, but before that, we should talk about what we should talk about in our next episode, since we are an hour in. Is that correct?
Probably gonna hit.
Yeah.
Before we do, I would just like to mention that strange animals or very funny and weird that we can input. That would definitely be just dogs in general.
And cats.
But
Yeah, dogs are pretty strange. In fact, the reason so many dogs are so silly is because humans have bred them in such a way that they could not survive, in the natural world.
Right. So it's
If
another...
human beings go extinct, most of the dog breeds that we create are going to go extinct along with us.
Absolutely.
I mean, imagine cows with a... Cows are were bred to be being milked by now. If we release them into nature, they're going to suffer.
Gargamel, I would just like to say, this is a reaction to what you just said.
Domesticated animals, just another thing humans have screwed up. In a way. Not completely, but as far as those properties of a wild animal that Gargamel mentioned. One thing I want to mention here with you guys and whoever's listening out there, we definitely appreciate that. If you're listening at this point, this far into the video, where I always run a Halloween art contest every October. So keep that in mind, guys. Next time we do the Monster Cast, maybe I'll get your ideas on air or off air about that if you have any. And yeah, what do you guys want to talk about next time? What do you think's a good topic?
I'll actually let other people suggest it this time, since I think I suggested it for the last 2 times, and so let's be fair, I'll stay out of it this time, so someone else can suggest. Unless no one else has any ideas, then I'll make a suggestion.
Okay.
Well, before we start throwing ideas, I would just like to inquire, has anyone on the comments got anything high up that we could possibly satisfy them with?
No, not other than I think that I mentioned last time with purely our own creations, but I think that one requires more preparation kind of and planning. So not really.
Well, what about more humanoid / alien / technologically advanced monsters, a la the Predator, since it is the
Hot topic.
high point of this week.
Predator, or either the Predator, or either like the Harvesters from Independence Day, or even if you want to do a silly one, Alf. Alf from Melmac. That was a silly one. I can't believe no one brought up Alf in this conversation.
True. I completely forgot about Alf. Alf was great.
Alf
But yeah,
is
stuff
awesome.
like the Predators, the Protoss, the Harvesters, stuff like that. Just more humanoid.
That would be cool.
Alien monsters.
That'd be cool, but I'm not sure necessarily that, intelligent aliens would be humanoid, though. A lot of them would probably look nothing like us at all.
So
given how
let's
evolution works.
Agreed. So let's narrow it down. Let's try to make this next one really specific, since we've been very general with the last Monster Cast. Let's make this one really kind of specific. Very
Are you guys able to hear me? Predator-esque monsters.
Yes, you sound great.
Newest release.
I don't think there are too many because most, aliens, there aren't too many stories about aliens coming to Earth specifically to hunt humans for sport.
No, I don't mean that necessarily come to Earth to hunt humans like, monstrous creatures that are possible. We can have it so it's not exclusively humanoid, but very advanced technologically,
Okay.
or just hunting, or just predator is not just hunting humans, just hunting other types of things as well. Just essentially
Right.
monstrous creatures that are more advanced in terms of their technology or tactics.
Predator monsters.
So technologically advanced alien races is what you're saying, from either other planets or other dimensions.
Okay.
I mean,
Well, not
technological
necessarily
monsters could be an
advanced,
interesting
but could be
subject.
monsters who are more warrior-esque or developed than humans. Not even in modern day humanity, but like from the past. Say a primitive tribe has a tale of a monstrous people that have better bows, better hunting gear, and stuff like that.
That's kind of interesting.
So, high-tech monsters.
So, quick question. I'm thinking of the War of the World aliens, because they're technologically more advanced, but they don't wear armor. They're actually in the nude. Would that apply to your kind of terms here?
Technologically advanced does not mean that they have to be intelligent and have common sense.
Well, or that they have to wear actual armor and clothing, so...
Well, the Predator doesn't really wear that much armor themselves.
True.
So...
Okay.
But they do. But the Predator does have, a lot of advanced technology. Like, for example, using technology to make yourself invisible or partially invisible, like the Predator does. That's pretty advanced. Also, laser technology, the ability to blow yourself up with just a tiny bomb. That's pretty advanced technology. Not to mention the fact that they're spacefaring.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
So monsters that use advanced stuff, not necessarily technology, it could be in a more primitive setting, things who just have better made and crafted materials, and that use more advanced stuff than humans and not just their own brawn and power. But that can also be included.
Okay. Yeah, we'll stick with that. And if you guys have any questions or you want to see if a monster works, just put it in the, I think, the events or this text area, and I'll confirm exactly what we'll talk about. I don't want to detract from this silly monster discussion too much. So yeah, we'll go with those lines. All right, so finally, to wrap it up, our final section on these monster casts are the creations, our own creations that we want to mention. And so I want to make a shout out to, I think it was Encaria. He posted, he's practicing to be a tattoo artist. He's one of our members here, helpful guy, cool guy. And he posted some of his sketches for tattoos, and some of them were zombie Muppets, zombie Kermit the Frog. And I was just thinking zombie Muppets. That's silly, but it could be a fun concept to explore in a movie in a comical way, but maybe somewhat realistic way too.
Well, creations. I have created a lot of silly things, but
no, I sadly have not made things that are silly enough for this specific kind of topic.
I should mention the time I made a upright standing salamander race that were named the Kylam, which is basically electric salamanders. They stood upright, had elongated elongated arms. Hello.
Hello, welcome.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you for joining.
They had
late.
Instead of a blood and instead of a blood pressure, they had an electrical current running through the body, and they could be able to generate electricity on their own. They were silly due to them being none of them being having higher intelligence, but your average kid, they were spacefaring race due to the fact they have ambushed other aliens and just took to the stars.
Okay.
I created multiple silly monsters. Because I especially used to draw comic books in my youth. None of them ever published, so I won't look for them. But I do have one silly monster that well, actually, I have two silly monsters that I want to mention. There was one called comic book I used to call that I called, I think, Weirdville. Was it in Weirdville Wilderness or Joe and Bill that I had these monsters called the Space Chickens? There's two of them I'm going to mention. This is the first one that I'm just going to mention them.
Wait a second.
I made them. They're bipedal chicken creatures that have 4 eyes, but they were cartoons, so that's one of them. They're technologically advanced alien invaders, space chickens
with 4 eyes
that I made up, and yeah, they're like 4-eyed giant space chickens, and they have like guns and stuff. So they're technologically advanced, but they're stupid.
I'm so sorry, but when you said space chicken, I cannot help but think of the Space Invader-esque game with where you're shooting chickens instead of UFOs.
What do they taste like? They still taste like chicken?
Yeah. The other monster I came up with that I think you guys might be interested in, I have a picture of them somewhere, and I even want a story involving them. I call them the Fluffies. They're also another technologically advanced alien race, but they're incredibly peaceful, and they're built like cartoon characters. They have no concept of war, but let's just put it this way. They could survive in the Warhammer 40k universe only because they cannot be killed.
That
it is
answers that
impossible
question.
to kill them. Whatever you do to them that would normally kill a living creature, exactly what you'd expect to happen to a cartoon happens. Like if you squash one, they'll pop right back up again. And they're super friendly and stuff. And if you attack, and they don't understand violence, if you attack them, they'll say something like, "You must not have a very nice mommy," and they'll try to hug you.
I'm going to listen here. I'm going to banish that thing to the warp and see how Silliest would like that thing.
Banish.
It wouldn't matter because they're uncorruptible. They're completely incapable of like violence or aggression.
Z, I would just like to remind you, this is a PG cat. Please do not bring up Slanish.
I did not mention that. You mentioned.
I'll show you a picture of the Fluffies.
No swearing in this Christian server.
A while back.
I want to shout out bodiless hands or hand monsters that crawl around. I'd like to see more done with that. There was a video game, a zombie video game, where you played as the zombie called Stubbs the Zombie, and sometimes you dislodge your own hand and you could crawl around the walls and find a human and jump on their head to take control of them. That was a really fun concept and cool, and could be done in a more serious horror type game atmosphere as well. So just in general, hand creatures, human hand. Explore that a little.
Well, reminds me of the concept of Never Dead. I think that was a guy that could never die.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, now that you mentioned hand monsters, how can we forget this beautiful gem?
From Adam's family, right?
Right?
Yeah, Thing, I believe.
Thing.
There you go.
It's Thing.
Such a clean cut hand. Very PG. And I guess for my own creation, of course, I could probably find a few things, but I'd like to shout out probably this one, which in a fun way I kind of call the anti-rape monster. Just in a...
Can you put it in the text chat also?
I'm
sorry, but I can't really, look at. I told you I can't really look at
the
stream right now.
I'm gonna try because it's in the gallery, and the way this website works, I'm not sure if I can pull it out. But it's...
You can download the image and post it on Discord.
Right, and I could probably find it in the computer.
Well, one of my friends.
I'll pull it up.
Go
ahead.
They're very good at what's it called, finding strange things. So let me see if I can find some that he sent me.
So, any others you guys want to mention or that you've created? Anything along those lines?
I have a large folder of things that I find silly, but I'm not sure that any of them would actually go. Not that I've created, I remember just as clearly right now.
Alrighty. Where is it? There we go. Upload. Hopefully this doesn't lag too much. There we go. So when I was thinking of Silly, I just thought of that one. The leg with a body, and you can see little spiderly legs on the back. You can imagine why I quickly called it what I did.
That is silly. That definitely is silly.
It's not the official name.
I still want to
Must
shoot it though.
resist the urge to make sexual joke.
If you
No,
wish.
it's not just a
I have a
Harry
feeling
Potter.
you love spicy waffle. Then they do nothing but make sexual, violent jokes. Not for children. Definitely, that's a YouTube channel you want to stay away from when your children are
Main diet,
around.
smoked sausages.
I don't have children. Thank God. I'm still lonely single.
Alrighty, guys. Anything else anybody want to mention? We're at 1 hour 24 minutes in. We got our next chat set up for. We'll define it better, but kind of monsters / aliens, since they often go with this, that use more advanced things than us, rather than relying just on their brawn and brains, but use more advanced technology or materials. I'll further clarify that in the text, and we'll mention that in our community to everybody so they can be ready for the next Monster Cast. Anything you guys want to say? Or add?
I like
Thank you very
Necron.
much for coming on here. Okay, I'd like to change my answer. I like rats.
Again,
I'm sorry.
I like cat.
I think we had a lot of winners here, but I still stick with the crocodile. It just rings well and nicely off my tongue.
The crocodile.
So thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you viewers. Thank you people in the text. Thank you voice chatters here, Dande in the text, Gargamel Gold. I hope you're doing well for joining us too. Chris Chu back, Raincrawler, and the latest and newest person to join us, Super OCD. Welcome and thank you. So until next time, goodbye everybody. Go ahead and say your goodbyes.
See you guys later.
Bye.
Have a nice day.
I'm Seanock.
I'll see if I can get a
Nobody
picture
cares.
of some of my creatures up if I can find any.
Have a good night.
And the outro
Oh.
song.
What's that?
Thank you everybody for watching. I'm gonna run this song for about a minute or two. Make sure everything's cleared and recorded. If you want to talk, go ahead. It'll probably be recorded, so keep that in mind. Till next time.
Well, if we are going to be recorded anyway, let's start with
I
something.
didn't know this was going to be a recording thing. Cool.
Yep.
So, anyone like Necrons?
Necron versus Terminator.
This ends up with
That is just, but Arnold will put up a fight that is worth remembering. When you win against the Terminators, sorry, the Necrons, can't distinguish the difference between those two. Oh god, I'm getting worse.
Mostly, thank you for coming on. Hopefully we can have you on at the beginning of the stream next time.
hooray!
Sorry.
I didn't know this is a stream. So,
Yeah, and I didn't expect it to take that long. It took longer than I expected. That was nice. I made myself nice and good. I could have sit with my parents.
I'm gonna have to pop off and thank you guys for a delightful evening and have a great night.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I have to follow that.